And part of this issue here today is about moving beyond the whole right and left thing. I think in the past it's been quite clear that, you know, this is the left, this is the right, you know, but nowadays we're getting all these things about, you know, who's left, who's right, who's in the middle. One minute Labor or someone is in the middle, next minute they're left, the next minute they're right. It doesn't really make any sense anymore. So here in 2007, the whole left-right thing just doesn't work anymore, you know? It just does not work. The Greens, where do they sit? We're obviously in that traditional way. You'd say, right, they're left or middle. If you might say they're left, but if you look at the policy, so I know they're kind of middle. And then we've got a lot of supporters from the Conservatives as well. So we're more middle to left, if you want to put it that way. So I think, and people would, and those labels, they just, as I said, they don't mean anything to people in 2007. They might mean something to people who grew up in that era, but I think nowadays young kids, they don't really necessarily relate to that anymore, which is good, because it's good for them just to go out and look around and decide how they're going to go. It's difficult for us, or for people younger than me, who are tied to that whole left, right, middle sort of way of understanding things. But it just doesn't work anymore. And I think the Greens are a great example of that, in that we're not, you know, you can't just simplify it that. I remember in Parliament, the Libs would often be criticising me, calling me a watermelon, you know, green on the outside, red in the middle, and calling you names such as communist and socialist. And I'd say, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't really know what a communist is. I know there's some people here who know it back to front, but I just don't know. I just don't know. And because I don't know, and people younger than me don't know, they can't relate to it. And this whole talk about what happened in the 50s and Menzies and all that, it just doesn't resonate anymore. So we have to move on. So where are we here in 2007? When I was thinking about this, I thought, okay, I might call this sort of talk Greens the middle way. Now, the middle way is a term used by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It really refers to a whole way of dealing with China and Tibet and the whole invasion and the cultural genocide that's going on there in Tibet, and how are you going to do it? Do you go in there all guns blazing, and Tibetans and Tibetan freedom fighters, and try to defeat one of the most powerful armed forces in the world, or do you do what the Dalai Lama is doing, and just trying to win back this country, their country, by a view of peace and compassion, middle way process? So I think the Greens are in many ways the middle way. I don't want to get too political here, because we're really here to talk about general issues, but that's one of the things I saw with the Greens. It was a middle way. It was a way in which a lot of people could relate to. When I was first asked to join the Greens, and I saw someone gave me this bit of paper and said, oh, well, the Greens have 4 core values, which is 1, peace and non-violence. So there's peace, that's the first one. The second one was basically grassroots democracy. So you've got peace, you've got democracy. That's great. I love that, that's fine. 3, social justice. Yep, that's for taking care of people, fellow human beings, compassion, all that, that's fine. And 4th one was environmental sustainability. So here's almost 4 commandments almost, you know, peace, democracy, justice, environment. And from those things, everything flowed. Now when that seemed very simple to me. So when I woke up on that Monday morning after the election, I thought, oh, I've got a new job, I'm a politician, what am I going to do? I went back to that. And which goes back to what I said about earlier, talking with Dave about core values. If you've got simple core values such as those, you can then spread everything out, everything flows from that. And that's the way I proceed as we speak here in 2007. Those core values, those green core values, from which policies and plans and all those other things flow. And have stayed with me, and they resonated back with the way I grew up, with what those nuns at St Joseph's School in Willow they taught me as a young child. That message as well, from what I heard from the Dalai Lama and Tibetan Buddhism, those messages I was getting from there. So, with that solid background, which I believe I have, and hopefully a lot of people here might feel as though they've reached a stage where you have got a solid background in what you believe in, you then take the next step. Okay, well, what do? I'm comfortable with myself. I look out and I see all this evilness, this hatred, this awfulness around us. What do we do to fight? But one of the reasons I joined the Greens was I realised after 20 or 25 years or so that you have to get in there amongst them. Okay. I know a lot of the issues. I know a lot of the problems we're facing. I have a lot of us here, like you, haven't got the answers, but I think you need to engage. You need to put your hand up if you can. You need to try to get in there, become empowered. Now, whether it's in your workforce, becoming, God forbid, that you believe in. Because if the country's run by people with no values, with no really core, and I don't know what John Howard's values are. I don't know what Morris Yemen's values are. I don't know what. That's what a lot of it then comes down to. The Howard Coalition government has been running on John Howard's values, and people need to engage in that, because even though it's not just about John Howard, and we've heard here it's all about business and all those international factors, that is an element, the individual element, the individual person is also an important part of it. And it's like the boss at work. The boss at work, everything can generate from that, and we all have, a lot of us will have experience from that. So these are just some of the thoughts I've had in relation to some of these issues, both what David talked about and what I spoke about with Bruce earlier on. So in trying to work out, okay, left, right, middle, where are we, where are the Greens, where am I, what about the place I live in the future, all these questions, climate change, is the future going to be backwards or is it going to be forwards, or what is going to happen on those macro levels. As I said, I'm more of a local person, I'm more interested in local issues, and that's the thing that will continue to drive me to the day I die. And I think that's where we've got a mixture in this community of people who engage in the local, who engage in the international, who are concerned about all sorts of issues. And as a Greens party, for example, we're trying to engage with as many people on just in summarising, I think when I was talking about the Greens as the middle way, I think that's probably that summarises a lot of the way forward for this country. Is we've got to use our mind, we've got to use our spirit, we've got to have a mixture of both the intellect and also the passion to get out there and fight for what we believe in, fight for what we know is right, because a lot of what is happening is not right. It's not right the way we treat refugees. I went up to Villuan refugee camp and I saw some horrendous treatment of young kids, for example, up there. They're basically in prison at the age of 14. And when you see things like that, you realise that whether it's a corrupt council official or whether it's a John Howard imposing an horrendous regime on some poor young, that really crystallised in my mind. Hang on, I think I've got a pretty good clue of my intuition. And I think if more of us went on our intuition, on our gut feeling, it'd be a lot simpler in the way that this country moves forward. So that's all I really want to talk about. I know it's very different to what David was saying, but I think we need a bit of a mixture between the local and the outside the local.
Thank you, Mark.